In American dining, few stories are as symbolic of the changing culinary landscape as the decline of Steak and Shake. Once a beacon of classic American fare, Steak and Shake has seen its fortunes dwindle in recent years, marking a significant departure from its former glory. This decline tells a tale of shifting consumer preferences, evolving industry dynamics, and the challenges faced by legacy brands in an ever-competitive market. In this video, we'll go through the rise and fall of Steak and Shake, a restaurant chain that once held a special place in diners' hearts nationwide, only to find itself struggling to keep up with the times. In the 1930s, Gus Belt and his wife Edith owned a gas station in Normal, Illinois, transforming it into a restaurant. Despite the Great Depression, they remained a husband and wife team, focusing on automotive and dining. The restaurant initially served all-you-can-eat chicken, fries, and coleslaw for 45 cents, with beer as an add-on. However, beer protests from a nearby college led to a strategic shift. In 1934, they became Steak and Shake, known for their steak-based burgers. Their slogan, "Inside It Must Be Right," was inspired by Gus Belt's unusual tradition of grinding steaks into patties before customers. Quality and cleanliness were prioritized, which contributed to their success. The restaurant gained popularity in the area and introduced curbside service before drive-thru adoption. At age 59, Gus Belt suffered a heart attack and passed away. Upon his passing, the complete ownership of Steak and Shake transitioned to none other than Edith Belt. Given their collaborative beginnings and a shared vision for the business, she was not much changed under her leadership. The noteworthy detail during her 15-year tenure is that the number of locations more than doubled, reaching a total of 50. But aside from that, continuity prevailed. In the late 1930s, the company expanded into Bloomington, Illinois, managing 8 establishments. Over 15 years, they expanded into Missouri, Arkansas, and Florida, eventually establishing 24 locations in the Midwest and southeastern United States. In 1969, Steak and Shake, with 50 sites, transitioned ownership, with Longchamps taking over. It appears that their primary focus may have shifted towards maximizing profits. They decided to increase some prices while compromising on the quality of ingredients to reduce costs, which might not have been a wise direction. However, considering these changes were relatively minor, given that they sold the company 2 years later. The new owner, Franklin Corporation, swiftly reverted most of the previous alterations. However, their period of ownership will likely be most remembered for their ambitious efforts to expand the company's market presence significantly. Do you recall how, during 15 years, Edith Belt was crucial in more than tripling its number of locations? Franklin exceeded it once more to 130 areas, this time in just 4 years. Additionally, the drive-thru became the fresh industry norm during this period, encouraging them to stop offering roadside service. 10 years after buying it, Franklin Corporation leased the business to Ed Kelly in 1981. Kelly subsequently established Consolidated Products as its operating parent company, but in 2000, the name was simply replaced by the Steak and Shake Company. Before this, Ed Kelly primarily dealt with consumer food products, typically in a grocery store. However, his ownership era is widely regarded as pivotal in the company's history. Steak and Shake recognizes him as the modern-day founder, probably because they expanded from 130 restaurants to nearly 500 and successfully reclaimed their original identity during his tenure. It appears to be the defining chapter in Steak and Shake's history. Their initial success was achieved in a completely different era, and subsequent attempts to modernize didn't seem to resonate. During parts of the 1980s, when Steak and Shake faced challenges, Kelly and his management team took a step back and decided to return to their roots. They made a concerted effort to undo any changes made in the previous 5 decades and restored the iconic black and white tile aesthetic, complemented by abundant shiny metal elements. Fast forward 50 years later, This classic retro look had a timeless appeal, making it even more enticing. It proved to be a winning strategy, prompting them to meet the growing demand by opening new locations over the next 2 decades and gaining fame for operating 24 hours daily. Problems began to go terrible again around 2006. You might claim that 2008 was the year things went bad based on their earnings. Despite opening 7 additional sites, their revenues decreased by about 40 million. However, the prior increases were due to having a more significant number of locations. Based on the data, the variables represent an average of how every diner did compared to a similar establishment the previous year. In 2006, the downward spiral began, marking the onset of their genuine challenges. When attempting to unravel the underlying causes, many diverse theories emerge. The company attributed its woes to external factors such as severe winters and escalating gas prices during that period. Given their predominantly Midwest presence, adverse weather conditions could have been pivotal. Another factor worth contemplating is the passing of Ed Kelly in 2003. One could argue that his absence might have affected the situation. Many speculate that a price surge during the time frame may have dissuaded numerous customers from returning. Regardless of the underlying cause, there was a noticeable decline in patronage at Steak and Shake, posing a significant challenge. However, it's noteworthy that they managed to bounce back from this setback, which brings us to their ultimate change in ownership. In 2008, a gentleman named Big Larry and his company Big Larry Holdings assumed enterprise control. Upon revisiting the same-store sales data, a noticeable trend emerges. Shortly after assuming control, there was a significant improvement, followed by a gradual decline. His objective is to offer reasonably good quality food at affordable prices, and the critical enabling factor for this is efficiency. They prioritized speed and cost effectiveness in delivering their steak burgers and shakes, benefiting from the high volume of sales that allows them to maintain low prices while generating modest profits on each item sold. It's a business model characterized by high quantities and slim profit margins, and when he assumed control of the company, that's precisely what he put into action. He streamlined the menu to enhance efficiency by reducing the number of items offered. Upon his arrival, their menu consisted of a hefty 8 pages, but he promptly streamlined it into a concise 2 pages. He soon unearthed a fascinating revelation. Burgers, fries, soda, and shakes constituted 80% of their total sales. They decided to pivot almost entirely towards these items to refocus the brand's identity. In addition, they embarked on a cost-cutting crusade, enforcing standardized pricing and menus across all their restaurants. Most of his strategic adjustments aimed at boosting food sales and expediting customer service. It's important to note that not all stakeholders, including franchisees and other involved parties, were thrilled with these transformations. Nevertheless, one cannot dispute their effectiveness. Subsequently, from 2009 to 2015, each passing year witnessed remarkable improvements for Steak and Shake. They consistently reported rising sales figures, an expanding customer base, and encouraging operating results. Now let's consider the flip side. In 2016, these numbers went south and have continued on a downward trajectory. Big Larry Holdings attributes this to its outdated kitchen equipment and restaurant layouts. Big Larry Holdings is a diverse company, owning Steak and Shake, Western Sizzlin', First Guard Insurance, Southern Oil, and Maxim Magazine. Steak and Shake, however, has previously served as the focal point. They were doing a lot better than the other enterprises. The money they were earning from Steak and Shake was used to fund all this crap instead of Steak and Shake. So, it would account for why they were employing antiquated technology. Consider how things like old equipment might affect Steak and Shake's model. It's almost like they corrected it and then forgot about it. They claim that it has more expensive labor expenditures, which are 6 to 8% more than those in other sectors of the business sector, as well as longer wait times. It makes customers dissatisfied, and it's not an effective strategy to make them wait when the objective is to service as many people as possible. Additionally, Big Larry assumed control just as the crisis started to have an impact, which is when you would anticipate that straightforward low price strategy to be very successful. Perhaps we can say that it lost some of its allure when the economy improved. It's another thing to consider, but at least they admit the problems. About 100 of their almost 600 sites had to be shut down while the equipment was updated and the spaces were remodeled to push customers to the countertops rather than the tables. Once more, it is quicker and more effective method. Nonetheless, the pandemic has thrown a wrench into the works. Approximately half of those initial temporary closures have evolved into permanent shutdowns. They are transitioning towards a greater emphasis on a franchising model rather than company-owned stores, which seems reasonable given their apparent desire for a less hands-on approach. Over the past few years, a notable surge in franchises has occurred, marking a departure from their previous operational strategy. So there you have it. Have you ever had the opportunity to dine at Steak and Shake? And if so, what was your impression of their food and dining experience? Let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.